Hey,
Ah,
everybody.
hi.
Oh, all the shit flew out of our cup again. Goodbye, cup stuff. Will's
We need
here.
a we need like a sippy cup, like the kind they give babies, so our stuff can't get all spilled everywhere.
But then how would stuff get into the cup?
I guess that's true.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Robert, I was just thinking about it because I love it and it's getting to be this time of the year. What are your feelings on eggnog?
I have actually, so I've never had like alcoholic eggnog.
Mm-hmm.
I remember as a kid, I think a couple times my dad got like non-alcoholic eggnog, and I remember liking it, but I haven't had it in a really long time. I definitely drink it again though.
Yes. I need an eggnog buddy. All right. Well, welcome to episode K-13592 of OK Podcast with Bad People.
Indeed.
We're
What
he.
is
Oh,
what
sorry.
is K-13592 a reference to?
That was like a
Is
really
that
bad version of the serial number of what the detective is for.
okay? I remember I'd written down what his serial number is because it turns out his serial number, he's police officer KD something,
Mm-hmm.
which is supposed to be it's like for Philip K. Dick, who wrote Do Androids Dream of
Oh,
Electric Sheep. Yeah, it's like a neat little reference.
well, there we go. Welcome to Philip K. Dick number episode of OK Podcast with Bad People.
Indeed.
We're here to talk about the movie Blade Runner
Yes.
2049, and then for the video game segment, talk about our favorite little things. Hey, Meister Cat, thank you for yeeting us all the bits.
Ah.
We missed
Oh
you.
man, he took the number one spot.
Well, anyway, but before we get into the main story, as always, the always wonderful Robert has a little thing in the beginning to do.
So
Karate
yeah,
moves.
we have a very relevant nerd deep dive this time because I decided to reread the book "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep," um, which the original Blade Runner is pretty sort of like 50 to 75% derived from. Because I think there's some pretty interesting things to talk about from the book. Have you ever read it?
I have not read it to completion. I don't like using. Why did I use that term? To completion. I've I've not read all of the book. No.
Okay. Yeah, so I thought there were interesting things in it that you can at least kind of like headcanon into the Blade Runner universe, or that maybe explain like some odd things from the original movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it'd be fun to talk about.
Let's do it.
Um, so the book opens with the main character Rick Deckard being awoken by an alarm from a device called the Penfield Mood Organ, which is like, do you? Yeah, he has this thing called the mood organ where you can dial a mood and it will just make you feel that mood.
Oh.
And so like he has an alarm set on it so that he's asleep and then it gives him the mood, I am ready to be awake and like wake up and get out of bed and be happy. But in the book he has a wife, Erin, and she has not set her Penfield to wake her up. And he tells her that he'll do it for her so that she will want to wake up. And this sets off an argument between the two of them, um, because he wants to set the mood organ to make her be happy, but she feels like she's gotten to a point where she feels like it's unnatural to feel those emotions all the time.
Hmm.
And has even been kind of like deliberately setting the Penfield to give her unpleasant feelings. Um, and in the course of their discussion, wait, don't look it up yet because we got a quiz question
Oh,
for you.
I'm not looking it up. I'm saying hi
Okay,
to Meister Cat in the chat.
all right. So in the course of their discussion, they talk about a lot of the emotions that you can dial. So I'm going to list off 5 of them, and you get to guess which of those 5 is the one that I made up.
Oh no, that's I know I have even less of a chance to be right.
All right, so it's the one that I made up. A, 481, awareness of the manifold possibilities open to oneself in the future. B, 888, the desire to watch TV no matter what is on. C, 772, the fear that one has become too complacent in life. D, 3, the desire to dial for a mood on the Penfield mood organ. Or E, 594, pleased acknowledgement of husband's wisdom in all matters, which is a super yikes. And I'm just going to tell you right now, that is not one I made up. I don't want there to be even 5 seconds where someone thinks I thought that up. But
Okay, I hate this question already, but the two that immediately stick out as the weird ones are whatever the one where it was able to watch TV no matter what's on,
mm-hmm.
or the one where the mood to use the organ itself.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to say that I couldn't say it because you were giving a really really good description of the scene that was being set up, but mood organ is a really good euphemism for penis. And I think everyone should start using that forever. It's a lot more classy.
That is a pretty fun euphemism.
But I don't remember in the movie because I don't remember the book. I read it like a little bit in high school. I'm gonna go with the one with the TV. I guess that one.
Bad luck.
Shit.
Fabulous Owl Riot had it right. It's C.
Which one was that?
The fear that one has become too complacent. The TV one and the one where you dial to set a mood that will make you want to dial to set a mood are both real.
That's weird.
All right, so one of the kind of big emotional conflicts that Deckard has in the book that he doesn't have in the movie has to do with animals and religion.
Mm-hmm.
So in the universe of the book, most of the life on Earth was wiped out during what they refer to as WWT for World War T. I don't know what the T stands for. If they said it, I did not catch it.
Mm-hmm.
But what's kind of important is the side effect of the war was this radioactive dust that spread over the entire Earth and wiped out almost all animals and killed and mutated a lot of humans, driving those who could afford it to leave Earth and go live on the colonies. One of the things that arose in the aftermath of that disaster was a new religion called Mercerism, which is centered around a philosophy of empathy. And in the book explores two major components of what people who practice Mercerism do. So one of those is that they use a device called the empathy box, which lets them fuse with Mercer. And so they are collectively, everyone who's using the empathy box at that time is experiencing like a recreation of Mercer's life, which is like sort of a mythical story. But the other tenet is that everyone needs to care for a living animal. But unfortunately, because almost all animals were killed, there's not a lot left, meaning that they're treated as really rare and valuable commodities. That second tenet of caring for animals is the reason that so many of the questions on the Voight-Kampff test have to do with animals. The purpose of the test is like to gauge the empathy that a real human would feel for an animal and that an android would have to simulate.
Gotcha.
But like caring for animals is so important that like every apartment building, the top floor of the apartment is like a big area that has animal pens so that people can keep their large animals there and like care for them. And the other thing is that people who can't afford a real animal will purchase a really convincing electronic animal to keep on the rooftop pen, and they pretend it's real so that all of their neighbors won't heap scorn on them for not taking care of an animal. And one of those unfortunate people is Rick Deckard.
Huh.
He has an electric, and the electric sheep's name is one that it has in common with a well-known comedian. You get to guess the name of the comedian.
Okay.
Is it A, Groucho, B, Chaplin, C, Curly Joe, or D, Arbuckle?
Well, I think Arbuckle is a reference to John Arbuckle from Garfield. So.
It was Fatty Arbuckle.
Damn it! I wasn't sure if that was like your trick because of Garfield cart. I would say of all those, probably Chaplin.
Nope,
Fuck.
it was Groucho.
Oh,
It's a sheep named Groucho, but
that
it's not real,
that's a
and it
good
makes
name
him
for a fake
sad.
sheep.
Yeah. Um, so there's a couple of like terms from the book for various things that didn't make it into the movie. Some of which are like complete concepts that didn't even make it into the movie. Um, so just as like a fast one, I'm gonna list some of those kind of like um, pieces of jargon from the book, and you get to guess uh, which one I made up, and then the other three are real. So we have A, Andes, B, Kipple, C, Goofballs, and D, Sydney's.
Man, our internet connection is fucking up real bad today, coming from like
Oh
your
man,
thing. So when you were saying
yeah,
goofballs, like it was super modulated and strung out, so it was like goofballs, and that was the best part. So I'm just guessing which of these terms is not a term.
yeah.
Andes.
Nope, Andes was real.
Okay.
Andes is what they call the androids. That's their like derogatory term for them.
Okie doke.
Yeah, Kipple is the word for because like everyone either died or abandoned Earth, they left a bunch of shit behind, and they refer to all the shit that humanity left behind as Kipple. Um,
Hmm.
and they even talk about the idea that like an air Kippleized because it's been filled up with all the like shit that humans left over. Sydney's are the name of the books that everyone carries around that are re-released every month. And the Sydneys have what the current value of every animal is.
Wow.
Yeah. So the goofballs are the ones that I sort of made up. It is a real thing from a different sci-fi book, which is The Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut.
Okay.
Um, they let you breathe in the vacuum of space.
All right.
All right. Um, so another difference between the book and the movie is that in the book, Deckard isn't a Blade Runner; he's a bounty hunter. So he gets like a small salary from the city that he's attached to, but most of his earnings come from a bounty that he receives when he retires an android. So for each android that's on his list that he retires, he gets $1,000, which, if you calculate for inflation from 1968, which is when the book was first released, that's about $7,400.
Hmm.
So after he retires three androids, the like first three of the androids who he's been sent to retire, he's feeling like real moral quandary and super depressed. And he knows that there's only one thing that will possibly make him, which is to go to the animal district and blow all $3,000 that he earned buying an actual animal to replace the sheep. So at the store, he is talked into purchasing a goat by the salesman. And I personally found the conversation that he has with the animal salesman really funny. Like it makes total sense in context, but it's also kind of goofy. So I'm going to read you four actual lines of dialogue that the salesman says to him, three of which are real and one that I made up. And I'm going to do my best pretentious salesman voice.
Okay.
So A, the thing about rabbits, sir, is that everyone has one. B, as a long-term investment, we feel that the goat offers unbeatable advantages to the serious animal. C, I'd like to see you step up to the goat class, where I feel you belong. Frankly, sir, you look like a goat. Or D, nothing says distinction quite like a goat, sir.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna make a guess based on probably the 7 words I heard you say.
Oh no, is my
So,
internet that bad?
yep.
Yeah,
Um. The goat class one feels like it was in the book.
it was, yeah.
Um. the the one about rabbits, if you made that one up, also sounds like a really good one. So I'm gonna say D.
You got it right.
Yay!
Oh
I got
man.
one.
Well, yeah. There's more we could talk about, but I don't want to like get into any major spoilers for the book. So unless anyone has any specific questions, I think that's probably it for the nerd deep dive.
It was a good dive.
Um, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry about my internet. Usually my roommates are gone doing trivia on
Gotcha.
Thursdays. But they're not tonight, so they're watching football with that stupid fucking sling box that eats a billion internets. Um, so,
Well, we'll make do.
yep.
We'll make this podcast, and then that one guy on YouTube will watch it.
Indeed.
But anyway, so I guess now we're moving to the first big meaty chunk of this. We're going to talk about the movie we saw,
Yep.
Blade Runner 2049.
hmm
And I believe this was
And it's a good time to watch.
Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
what?
Oh,
What were
sorry.
you about to say?
I was saying, I believe this is the first time either of us have seen it.
I've seen it once before, actually.
Oh, okay. I
hmm
didn't know that.
Yeah, first I wanted to watch it too, so I watched it then as well. So this is my second time through.
Okay. But sorry, it's a
Yeah, I
really
was
good time
gonna
to
say
watch it.
this is a good time to watch Blade Runner because I hadn't thought about this when I recommended this film for this week, but I rewatched the first one
Because it's in
also.
November 2019.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, Reddit has been talking about that all month. Been like, oh man, when do we get our flying cars and whatevers. But
Oh man. So yeah, so this is your first time then. What did
I really liked it. I think, honestly, I like it more than the original.
Hmm.
Just because it, like, the original one is definitely, it feels a lot slower. At
Yeah.
least the director's cut does. It feels a lot slower.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Just also the increase in like technology available for making this movie just made it feel bigger than the first
Yeah.
one did.
That's definitely true. It like it is a much bigger feeling world that they get to explore.
hmm The action in this one felt, I think, better,
Yeah.
and I always like Grandpa Harrison Ford. So getting to see Harrison Ford as a grumpy old man beating the shit out of Ryan Gosling was nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was good. I feel honestly like I'm not a super huge Android Dream of Electric Sheep or Blade Runner fan to be like this is truly a worthy sequel, but it felt like a movie that lived up to the first one in my opinion.
Yeah. I definitely agree on that. Like I will say for me, I think I still like the first one better. Part of that is that I remember when I first watched this one, I had that same feeling of like, man, I love this. I'm having a hard time deciding which of these I like better. But the
Mhm.
one that has kind of stuck with me the most is the first one. That having been said, like watching this one through again, my appreciation for it deepened a lot. Um, so I don't know. Maybe after another couple of rewatches, I'll end up liking this one better. I don't know, but
I think
it is really great.
aside from Harrison Ford as the lead, I think the only other big advantage the first one had over this one was a better like villain that kind
Yeah,
of had like an arc going. I think Jared Leto did fine in this one as sort of like the weird pseudo philosophical God on Earth thing, but I wanted to know more about him and I wanted to see something happen to him.
mm,
But he just sort
yeah,
of gets away with whatever he's doing, sort of.
yeah. Like the movie never deals with what happens to him after everything. None of the characters put an end to him.
Mhm.
Kind of just like his number one assistant gets.
Yeah, which I think also makes sense because when you think about it, it's just like two or three people versus the biggest corporation on Earth.
Yeah.
So they,
So I think like, yeah, I think for me, the reason that the first one has stuck with me so much more comes down completely to that final scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like Roy Batty's speech that he gives is so good. It's something that I genuinely think about probably almost every day.
That's weird, but okay. Sorry, just because I'm
Well,
like,
I don't
what
know what.
provokes that every day? Like, you're just like eating breakfast, and you're like, man, I've seen a lot of things, like battleships exploding on the shoulder of Orion.
Well, it's his like description of the way that memories give kind of a value to life. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I don't know. There's just a real beauty to it.
Yeah, I completely agree that there is nothing in this movie that like feels as deep as like Beatty's like last words when he's there. It's
Yeah.
like the all gone like tears in the rain. Nothing like that. So yeah, I think there are definitely stronger individual moments in the first one, but as a total package of enjoyment, I think I liked this one more.
Hmm.
But um,
It is pretty great.
I like Kay's character more than I like Decker's character.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. K is a lot more engaging to watch.
Mm-hmm. Like Decker kind of is like a dick. Well, from what I remember, I haven't watched it since we first watched him again for this, and I just remember him being kind of a curmudgeon fuck.
He is, yeah.
But like Kay, which when they kept calling him, because I was like, what is his name supposed to be? And when they called him Kay, I immediately thought of Men in Black, and I was like, oh. Like the fact that he is like one thing I wasn't completely sure about. Are replicants like fully organic?
That is something that I am also not completely certain on. I think that the answer is yes. Like I think that they're genetically built,
Okay.
but yeah, that I don't think it's ever made explicit to the viewer what that is. Yeah.
Okay, because what I thought was interesting at first, because I was under the impression, at least during the start of the movie, that he was at least partially machine. Is
Hmm.
that he has like a hologram wife at his house,
Yeah,
and I
Joy.
yeah Joy, and I've seen that in a lot of stuff like Total Recall and things like that, where there's the holographic wife to like kind of help ease the loneliness of the human counterpart. But
Hmm.
in my brain, I was like, oh, it's a machine living with a machine and finding
Yeah.
like common ground and love with each other. And I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah, I their relationship is really complicated, but it's one that I really love. I think that's one of the best parts of this movie, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
is that relationship. Um, I know I can't remember the name of the actress, but she talks in the special features about how like there's a weird element because like Joy I programmed to
Sorry, you
kind of
broke up really hard just
oh
at the
no.
start of that. What were you saying? Joy what?
Joy has been like programmed, of course, to be kind of like in love and reactive to whoever she's with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but at the same time, like the Joy that we know in this movie is maybe kind of a very unique case. So if you remember, there's a scene later in the movie where he's walking by and a gigantic Joy from a billboard comes down and talks to him.
I want to talk about that more, so don't let me forget this. But yes, I do remember that scene specifically.
Yeah. So she is kind of like what the default settings for Joy are, is that's what the default is like.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ideas that they had for this movie is that Joy's is programmed to react to what the person who has bought her needs. And what Kay really needs is like a genuine connection to another person. And because Joy is trying to react to that need, she ends up kind of superseding her own programming and having a kind of autonomy that a normal Joy wouldn't necessarily have.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
their relationship is also one of the few things that I was like I don't want to say disappointed, but the whole point when they were like, "We need to get out of here, so just take me off of the circuit and then just store me on the disc." And then he's like, "But if something happens, you'll die." I was like, "Okay, cool. She's gonna die. Like that has to happen 100%." And
Yeah.
that was a really heavy, I think, like one of the bits of foreshadowing that I was just like, ugh. That was super not well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the way they do advertising in this was cool. Is that some of the biggest images from the first one is, especially that one where it's flying past in a car and it's that giant skyscraper sized ad for Coca-Cola that like a pretty woman's drinking from the first one was cool. And then I thought it was interesting that when this movie starts and they're flying back into Los Angeles, it's all almost dark. There aren't any of those ads. So I was like, oh, are they not doing the ads again in this one? And then the movie goes on and then they start showing up as holograms and like the giant dancing women in the middle of the street. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, they like actually interact with the people who they're advertising to, which is a pretty crazy idea.
The thing I was wondering about is, does the giant joy, can that only interact with one person at a time? Or is it like because I was trying to think of the logistics of it, because was it like a Minority Report thing where it's actually interacting with everyone at the same time and you're only seeing it from your end? Or would it be like if we were in that scene, we would see a giant pink woman talking to Ryan Gosling and being like, that's pretty cool. I hope she talks to me next time I go buy grapes.
Yeah, that I don't know. I don't get the impression that it's something that everyone would see her leaning towards them. I feel like if she's talking to Ryan Gosling at that time, that's what you see. Because I guess I feel like they probably would have tried to make it explicit that if the technology works in a way where it looks different to different people seeing it from different angles, I feel like that's something that they would have shown us.
That makes sense. I do also really like that when she was trying to give Kay a name, she picked Jo, which is just the first two letters of her name.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that. That is kind of funny, though.
So that'd be Jo and Joy. Okay, so I just heard this movie had done really well, and I had my hopes up, and I was looking forward to it. That's about all I knew. I didn't expect Dave Bautista to be in this movie.
And he's great, right?
He's a really good actor, and I remember reading an interview that said he wants to move away from wrestling to be an actor. And he has done that, but he's just like, it's so hard to find great theatrical parts for a 400-pound gorilla.
Yeah, he talked in the special features about how, like, most of the times when he goes out for a part, people either tell him that he's too big or too old. But then what was weird about this one was they were like, you're too young for this part. But then they called him in and were like, hey, we want to try some makeup tests on you and see if we can get it to work that way.
And it definitely did.
Yeah. So they there are actually 3 supplemental short films that go with this movie.
I think I've heard about these.
Yeah, so they're also on the special features on the Blu-ray. 2 of them are directed by Luke Scott, who's Ridley Scott's son. And one of them is a story that follows Dave Bautista's character.
Sapper.
What his name is? Sapper, yeah. Sapper Morton. And it kind of like tells the story of how he accidentally exposed that he was a replicant that ultimately leads to Kay coming to hunt him down.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're pretty neat little short films, and they don't take a long time to watch.
I'm a little surprised we didn't actually get to see anyone eat bugs in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it starts with him at a bug farm, and I was like, oh, are people going to be eating bugs in this? And then no one ate bugs. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wonder if, though, like, do they directly just eat bugs, or, like, he calls it a protein farm. So my thought had been, you farm the bugs to make protein, and then you probably break it down and make it into a different looking substance.
That makes sense. I did really like the what I would want to call it an homage thing is that the first thing that Decker eats in the for original movies he eats those weird shitty looking ramen noodles.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first thing Ryan Gosling eats is the weird shitty looking ramen noodles, which are then superimposed by holographic food. So, because part of me was when I was thinking like, oh, he's a machine, that somehow he'd be able to like interface with the hologram, be like, this does taste like steak. But then he just puts his feet up and talks to his weird hologram wife. Which I don't know if it's too early to talk about this, but I think this movie has probably the most interesting visual sex scene I've seen in a movie.
Yeah, I agree. That scene is nuts. Like it kind of blows my mind when I watch it.
Yeah,
Um,
it didn't make me uncomfortable, but it made me be like, oh, that's like specifically the parts where it would focus on her hand and upper arm, and they'd be moving in and out of each other.
yeah.
But yeah, anyway, when she superimposes herself onto a real girl, like the movie didn't feel like that scene didn't feel specifically like not specifically especially erotic to me. Like I wasn't like, oh man, this makes me want to just touch my mood organ. But
Yeah.
it felt like art. Basically, while I was looking at it, like I was like, this is cool, and
He
everything.
is like,
I don't know. Normally, when I see
yeah, I
sex
completely
scenes,
agree.
they're either like, oh, this is supposed to be like erotic, or it comes off as being like really trashy, like they're trying to be like, that was a terrible description, by the way. But this just felt like it was something brand new and was just loaded with emotion and imagery and stuff, and I was just like, this is nuts.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. Um,
But it also then just created so many questions in my mind about not only the world that the movie takes place in, but like myself. Like I was like, man, if I had a hologram wife, would I be okay with having like physical sex with another person while my wife is projected onto them?
yeah. It's a weird question. And like, I'm the kind of person who gets emotionally overwhelmed pretty easily. And so like that's a cool scene to watch, but I feel like if I was having to live that, that would be a trying experience for me. Because it would just be like, this is really weird, and there's a lot of big emotions going on.
The only thing that kind of ruined that scene was like the part right after when the prostitute lady just kind of is a catty bitch to the like it didn't feel warranted to me where she's
Yeah.
like, I've been inside you, there's not much in there, and then she just walks off.
Yeah, I agree. That kind of sucks. I mean, I guess like from her perspective, she's like woken up and she's done this kind of out there thing for these two people, and then Joy tells her like, "I'm done with you now," and like I'm not trying to make excuses for her, but I guess
Mhm.
I'm just saying like if someone has said to me like, "I'm done with you now. You can go. I'm done with you." I can see feeling a little upset and maybe wanting to bite back some.
I guess I don't know, just in movies because I figured she was paid for what she did, like she was a prostitute. Is like
Yeah.
that's how like normally, unfortunately, prostitutes get treated. It's like, all right, we're done. Our business transaction is completed. But yeah,
Yeah.
it just felt weird. Maybe it wasn't unwarranted, but it just was like, oh, that was a really cool scene. Oh, now they're being mean to each other. Okay, bye, prostitute lady. Yeah, that was good. I have a bunch I want to talk about with this movie. I'm like, I don't know where to jump to next. The sound. I don't want to say the soundtrack necessarily, but like the soundscape of this movie. Like when it just
Hmm.
had like the big swells of like electronic crunchiness. When
Yeah.
it made like the world just feel imposing and cold. Like
Hmm.
there's just big walls, and then the sound is almost. It reminded me a little bit of Inception.
Hmm.
Have you seen Inception?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I watched it though.
Okay, because that was another movie I was wondering if you wanted to watch for the podcast. But if you've already,
I'd actually been thinking for a while about we could do a special episode sometime, or we
Mhm.
would watch both Paprika and Inception,
Oh no.
since a lot of people talk about how like a lot of the big idea come from Paprika,
Mhm.
but Yeah,
That
I don't
would
know. That was just an idea that I had that could be fun.
I'm not against that at all. But anyway, just where like it's the big music, and I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
I like that in this sort of setting. I
Hmm.
honestly think this Blade Runner movie is probably in my top three sci-fi movies now.
Nice.
But I'm really glad we watched it. But I'm trying to think.
I had a
Fuck, I have
feeling
something in
you'd
my
like
eye.
it.
Ah, shit. So, lean out of frame for a second. If you have anything to say, please do so to cover for me.
Well, so like another character who I think is pretty interesting and worth talking about is Love, who is Wallace's assistant.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's another character who seemed really complicated to me because like she of course is a replicant herself and she has to understand literally watches Wallace take a newborn replicant and just gut that replicant just because he wants to, you know? Um,
Can we pause and talk about that scene for a bit?
yeah.
Like, what do you think was like this? Was that just really just like a big dick moment for him? Like, I'm just showing that I have the power to kill someone. Like that scene felt weird to
Yeah.
me. Like I wasn't sure what it was trying to say.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I completely know either. Like, I got the impression that that was a new model of replicant that they were looking at, and
Mm-hmm.
it was like maybe there's something valuable in this one. And then I thought like maybe it was just that Wallace was mad because Love had told him that she had not had much luck so far in finding the replicant that was capable of reproduction.
Okay.
And like Wallace is so indifferent to the lives of replicants that to him that was just like a way to express his anger. And like you see Love cry in that scene, which she does a couple times in the movie, where there's like you get the sense that there's an interior debate in her between the loyalty that she's been programmed to have for Wallace and the things that she knows that Wallace does to herself and to other replicants. Um, but yeah, I don't know. That's the best explanation that I can come up with right now for why he does that. But I don't. Did you have thoughts on it?
Well, one thing I don't know if it was just the version I was watching is.
I think there's only one cut of this movie.
Sorry, I just meant like where I was watching it from.
Oh.
Because we just like rented it real quick on the Roku, is only with his scenes because of like where they were being filmed. The acoustics were really weird, so it was mechanically it was difficult. We didn't have ability to turn subtitles on. Is I couldn't tell what he was saying sometimes because like it would just either get muffled or like it would echo off itself and he'd keep talking. But I like
Yeah.
would just have the idea that he's saying things like God and angels and I am the God and whatever. So I was like, maybe he's saying something that's relevant, and then he cuts the stomach, and I was just like, what's happening?
I
Because
mean, so he kind of makes the case in that scene, which, in all fairness, is something that's literally true, is which is that he said like there would not be humans at this point in history if he had not invented the things that he invented,
mm-hmm,
and like the major progresses that humanity has had since some pretty enormous disasters have in large part come from him.
mm-hmm,
Um, which like of course he's not actually a god, and him speaking as if he is a real show of ego, but like a lot of that scene is just him being like, I literally am the god that saved humanity, and right now you are not giving me the thing that I need in order to take things to the next step.
gotcha. Like if that's the case, that's kind of a bummer because he's not really an interesting character. He's just an asshole. Is
Hmm.
like the way he like it feels like they're trying to make him more interesting than he is by the way he talks. And I was
So
sorry.
I know that Jared Leto based his performance off of some kind of like Silicon Valley types that he knew. And like that kind of makes a lot of sense to me that like there's just some people who are like the huge leaders of big Silicon Valley companies that have that kind of same way of talking, you know?
Mhm.
And like who have pretty big egos Um, and I guess I feel like that's just what he's trying to channel. But
Mm. Well, because yeah, I think probably the biggest misstep in that movie, not necessarily a misstep, but just because a movie can only be so long, is there wasn't enough of Jared Leto's character that
yeah,
I felt nothing but negativity towards him. I didn't feel
hmm,
like any sympathy for anything or like I get what he's doing.
yeah,
It was just like, oh, he murders someone and then he is threatening to torture an old man. He makes a replicant that he has executed in front of the old man. He was just an ass. And he wasn't like a Joker level ass where he was like fun to watch because he's manically crazy. He was just
yeah.
a
I don't know.
dick.
I found his performance really entertaining and fun to watch myself. But
Yeah, it was fine. I wanted to know
yeah.
more about the weird things he stuck on the side of his head because that was
So
cool.
the things that he puts that like Love puts on his neck, and
Mm-hmm.
then the so I know a little bit about that actually. So
Yes.
something that I hadn't picked up on until I watched the special features for this is his character is actually
Blind.
blind.
Yeah, I figured he was
Yeah,
blind because his
okay.
eyes were so milky.
Yeah,
That.
I thought it was like there's something going on with his eyesight, but I it doesn't make it explicitly clear that he's blind, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that he sees is those little black hovering things, which are called barracudas.
Hmm.
Um, so like it's kind of interesting to obviously he's not seeing the world in the same way that we do because his eyes are these tiny little floating things that he moves around and has multiple of at the same time. Um, but yeah, that little thing that she puts on his neck, I think, kind of just lets him connect to more of them at one time.
Because I saw there was like multiple colors of them. And they all had different symbols on them, so I figured they were functionally different. But
Yeah, maybe it may be that like the different ones he puts on his neck connect to different barracudas or something.
I didn't even know there. Did they call them barracudas in the movie?
They don't call them that in the movie, but that's in the special features when they talked about them. That's
Gotcha.
what they call them. That is the name that they gave to those things.
That is a cool name for them.
Indeed.
I don't know if that's necessarily appropriate because barracudas are known for being a very aggressively predatory thing, and those were just sort of observational whatevers. But the
I mean,
name,
they like feel very predatory in the way that they look at things, though.
I guess that's true.
Like that scene we were just talking about with the replicant, where he kind of like has them circling around her body, and they're just like flying around. It feels very invasive to her.
Gotcha. Her being birthed was also an interesting scene where like it just descends, drops her out, and then the plastic goes back up. I was like,
Yeah.
that felt weird.
Well, and just like watching that scene made me think about like what does it feel like to be born as a fully formed thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like probably what's going on in her consciousness is just like the basic connections that like normally you'd make as a baby, but like she's having to do that as a fully developed thing. And that's like really weird to think about, I guess. Like what it would be like to be just born as a you. Like
Yep. But yeah, that was all I really want to talk about that scene. Sorry, I know you were talking about something, and I interrupted because I stopped to be like, "Can we talk about that scene for a second?"
oh, I don't even remember what I was talking about before. But
Were we just
all
talking about
right.
Jared Leto's character? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Um,
Eh.
I don't.
But yeah, um, yeah, that scene was weird, and I didn't get what it was supposed to necessarily be showing, other than him just being an asshole.
Hmm.
And I was just kind of
Well,
bummed.
yeah. I mean, I think it's like also establishing what his motivation is. Where like the case he makes is that for humanity to get to the next step, they have to find replicants who are capable of giving birth. Because he says that he literally cannot make replicants fast enough, and he says that the advancement of humanity depends upon having a massive disposable labor force.
Mm.
And so like partially that scene I guess is just establishing like how intense his desire to find the android who was given, or the replicant who was given birth to is.
Gotcha.
But
Let's see. So many things there. Oh, you were talking about Love's character.
yeah.
Because we were talking about the scene where she was crying, and that's where I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to stop. So you're saying what made
I
her
guess
interesting?
I just found that dichotomy in her, where like there's clearly a part of her that is feeling very deeply, but also she's programmed to be completely obedient while to an extent that she will stand there and just like cry while watching him kill someone, or cry while she's killing the police captain.
Did she cry while she was doing that?
Yeah, she like does the same thing where there's like just a tear that comes out of her eyes.
When did that happen? If you can remember in the scene, when did that happen?
It's kind of like, if my recollection is correct, it's kind of like right before she um really gets in there and kills her. But
Okay, because I remembered seeing her crying when when the other thing was happening to the other replicant. But yeah, I didn't remember her crying when she was killing. Because to be honest, but talking about it, maybe it changed my mind a little bit. I didn't really think she was an interesting character. She just felt like a Terminator to
hmm.
me because
Yeah,
yeah, she just kills
I
things.
think that yeah, I think that she really has like a dichotomy in her. Um Kind of like something that's a little bit relevant to that is the other Luke Scott directed short film that's related to this, is a scene where it's Wallace, and this is in a time. So you remember they talk about point?
You just skipped a whole bunch, so I don't know what you just said.
Oh no.
You
Okay, well,
remember when what?
you remember in the movie they talk about a blackout having happened that wiped out all of the data?
Yes.
So the first short film is a like 15-minute long anime directed by Watanabe, the guy who directed Cowboy Bebop and who
Mm-hmm.
was a co-writer on Tokyo Godfathers.
I think I saw this.
Yeah, so like that one shows what happened during the blackout, which is that there was an uprising of replicants who were trying to wipe out all records of who was and was not a replicant in hopes that that would make them free. And after that event happens, Earth bans all replicants on the planet. And the short film where Wallace is him talking to basically like a council of humanity and making the case for why they need to let him make replicants again. And the way that he demonstrates to them how completely 100% obedient his replicants are is that he has a replicant kill itself in front of them. So I
Oh,
guess like, yeah, his replicants, obviously some of them do have the ability to kind of like be disobedient to what their programming tells them to do, but the level of obedience that has been built into them, I think, is much greater than the level of obedience in the replicants from the first Blade Runner.
gotcha. Because that is true. Like, why is Kay able to resist?
So like I I think the suspicion that I have about why he's able to resist is because of the memories that he had.
Oh, okay.
Um, Denis Villeneuve said that one of the themes of this movie, at least from his perspective, is the way that our memories make us human. And so, like, the fact that Kay has a genuine, actual memory that another human had, um, kind of like overrides his programming to a certain extent.
Okay, that makes sense.
At least that's my thought on it.
Because going back to Love, the last thing I want to say about her is the only kind of like weird pop of personality that I've really noticed was when she's fighting Kay at the end and she stabs him, and then as she's walking away, she goes, "I'm the best." And she goes
Yeah.
like, she says, "I'm the best one,"
Hmm.
and then she swims away, and I was just like, okay. And then not Ryan. I kept wanting to say Ryan Reynolds when I was watching this movie, but Ryan Gosling just swims up and chokes the shit out of her.
Yeah, I laughed in that scene when he pops out of the water because like there's this look that Deckard, who's the actor?
Harrison
Can I
Ford.
remember? Harrison Ford has on his face when Deckard pops up out of the water and starts choking her, where he's just like, "Oh, you've got to be fucking kidding me."
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I'll have to look at
It's
that.
just like a quick little look. And maybe I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering it, but I remember seeing it and thinking, "Oh, that's kind of fun."
I'm gonna see if I can find that while we're talking. But yeah, so like, Love was a fine villain, but to me, I wasn't like, oh yeah.
Hmm.
But okay, let's see if I can find that scene where they're fighting in the water. Oh, I'm right there. Let's see if I. Yeah, she says. Yeah, she says, "I'm the best one." Okay. Deckard. She's swimming back. Alright, here we go. He just looks.
Okay.
No,
well,
he's just looking around, confused at all of the water.
I guess maybe I misinterpreted his facial expressions.
Oh, because like when he kind of looks up at her, down at Gosling, back up at her, and then as they're fighting and the water's rising, he's just kind of looking back and forth as the water's coming up.
Hmm.
But, yeah, what I liked the end. Oh, one thing that's the thing I thought was interesting. I wanted to talk about before we go to the ending is I'm assuming the 6/10/21 is a birth date. That keeps coming
I
up.
don't remember what that was.
Because they in the movie they never explicitly like say what that is.
I do think it's probably the birthday.
At least, unless it said it like on a terminal somewhere and I missed it, like when he was looking through records for birth or whatever. I just thought.
So
I
the horse definitely has something to do with either Rachel or the child. One thing that I'd learned is apparently there were multiple animals that Deckard made.
Mm-hmm.
There were a rhino, an antelope, a cat, a horse, an elephant, and a. If you look at the first letter of each of those animals, they spell Rachel. So,
Oh.
yeah.
But the thing I was going to bring up, I thought was if it is the birth date, and Rachel dies in childbirth, is that in the ending of the first Blade Runner, one thing that's very unsure and I'm talking about the director's cut, which I would say is like or final cut or whatever.
The final cut, yeah.
Which has like the ending where the elevator just shuts and not the shitty narration by Harrison Ford that just says how everything was wonderful for the next 60 years. Is that they say that Rachel only has a couple more years to live. Like, as he's like, it's a pity she won't live too long. Because her lifespan is, and it's interesting that she did technically only have a couple more years to live because she died in childbirth.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that was something I just remembered, and I was like, that's interesting. But then in that same note on the ending of the final cut is very, like, open-ended. Like, you're not sure what's really going to happen is. For me, the ending of this movie is very similar.
Yeah.
Is you don't really know if Kay dies. Unless, do they say explicitly in the special features he dies?
No.
Because I looked at the Wikipedia for it, and they do not say he dies. He just lays down on the stairs, and then I was Googling it to see, does anyone say he dies? And everyone's like, it doesn't say for sure that he dies. And then you don't really...
It hadn't even occurred to me that he dies. I thought he was just chilling on the stairs, but...
Because when it does the last couple seconds, he's blinking a lot while he's laying down, but then he stops blinking. as it's
Gotcha.
and it holds on him as he stops blinking, and then it zooms away after that. So I didn't know if that was like the whole his spirit leaving his body camera shot that I've seen done in a lot of stuff. And then
Yeah.
you don't get to see the end of even really the start of the conversation between Deckard and his I almost said his sister, his daughter.
His daughter.
So
Yeah. I
also
really love the scene where they meet, though.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. I know that the shot of like someone reaching towards the glass has been done before, but it's a great shot. It works here really well.
Two things that kind of one okay, where I was going. Two things I was kind of confused about by the end is one is whether or not his daughter really had some sort of compromised immune system thing, or if they were locking her in there to as a way like the resistance was keeping tabs on her to be like now we know where she is and she's basically hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
And then the second thing though was I know when like the big not conspiracy fan theories when Blade Runner came out, the first one, that they're like, is Deckard a replicant? And then it was basically confirmed by Ridley Scott, like, yeah, he's a replicant. Is they don't seem to really bring that up
Yeah.
in this one. So
They
is it just
don't,
sorry.
and they don't. I think at one point Kay asks him what his model number is or something like that, but he just doesn't even respond.
Oh, he does. I didn't
And
remember
also,
that.
like, I could be misremembering, but also, if he is a replicant, why is he still alive?
Because the thing I remember about the model numbers is when he asks Kay what his name is, and then Kay says his designation. He goes, "That's a model number, not a name." And then he's like, "Joe." But yeah, sorry, we keep interrupting.
I could very easily just be misremembering,
But yeah, I wasn't sure if people going into the movie were supposed to just have the knowledge that yes, Deckard was a replicant, or if he was supposed to be a human in this movie. Because he's not strong enough to fuck up Joe when they're fighting, because Joe just lets him punch him and he's fine.
yeah. But I mean, that could also be explained just by the fact that he's a much older model than Joe, if he is a replicant.
That's true. But no one's...
I don't know the answer to that question.
I just wasn't sure because you said special features, so I didn't know if you had background knowledge where they're like, yeah, because Deckard's a replicant or something. Because you knew about Barracudas.
Yeah, they didn't say anything about that in the special features,
But yeah, that's the one thing I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be that what made the daughter special is that she was like a hybrid human replicant, or if it was the child of two replicants.
Yeah, huh? I don't know either.
But anyway, yeah, the ending I thought was really good.
Yeah, I think like the very ending is good. I don't know. There's a little bit of this movie that feels to me like when I guess I wish I hadn't seen the like people who are the rebelling replicants. In a way, like if it's mysterious what the rebellion looks like to me, that I would have preferred. But that's a pretty small nitpick.
Probably my biggest nitpick towards the ending is I don't, but it kind of fits with everything else, I guess, in terms of tone. Is I didn't think no, never mind. I'm going to take that back. But I don't think the final fight was that interesting. Like he somehow gets his hands on a car that has guns, which didn't make any sense. Okay, and
well, it's his car, isn't it?
But he doesn't have his. I thought he didn't have his car anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't know. Well, just the fact he gets to shoot down two cars for free, and then he just fist fights that lady. I don't know. It didn't feel as cool as the Deckard Beatty final interaction.
Yeah.
And then
it's definitely like the least exciting fight of the movie. Like the fight against Sapper, I think, is much cooler.
Mm-hmm.
And also like the fight where Kay gets brought down in that junkyard, and then like gets out of the car.
That part was like the thing that even Will like that was a shitty way to put that is Will like verbally went, oh shit, did they just use a kite to shoot down that car? And I was like, that was awesome. is, I don't know, I was hoping for a bigger,
Hmm.
flashier finish. That finish felt like
Yeah.
almost low budget. Like there
Hmm.
was not a lot happening in there that would have required like special effects and stuff. It was
Yeah.
just people fighting inside of a car with a lot of water and
Hmm.
then drowning someone. It
Yeah.
didn't feel like a clash of two superhumans, which is what I was really wanting, since you couldn't have, well, I guess you couldn't really have that in the first one because, to your knowledge, Deckard is a human fighting Roy Beatty, who's a super monster. But since
Yeah.
you know from the beginning that Kay has superpowers, I was hoping him, and I didn't expect, honestly, Love to be the final whatever. I thought the final fight was just going to be Kay suicide missioning into the headquarters again to get Deckard back.
Hmm.
And it was just going to be him killing like hundreds of soldiers and then eventually just dying.
Yeah.
But it was still fine. It was just I wish it would have
Yeah.
been bigger.
I don't know. And there is like, I don't know, maybe it's just because the idea of drowning is really deeply terrifying to me
Mm-hmm.
that lent that scene a kind of tension that the other fight scenes don't have. But I definitely agree that in terms of like the coolness of what's going on, it's not as big and flashy, which is kind of disappointing for the finale.
One thing I will say that was interesting is I've never seen someone angrily drown.
Yeah.
She didn't look panicked at all, like, oh no, I'm drowning. She's like, I want to kill Kay so bad. But then she just couldn't
Yeah.
and she drowned. And I was just like, oh, that was interesting. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I didn't expect Harrison Ford to survive this movie.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I saw him on the cover, I'm like, okay, he's going to die. Like, in the last, like, quarter of the movie, it was going to be, like, the passing of the torch to whatever the fuck Kay was going to be doing. I didn't even know what his name was at the time. I was just like, for sure, Harrison Ford, it's going to die. And then he didn't, and I was like, yay, I was
Yeah.
wrong. I like
Yeah, I
being
was
wrong.
happy too.
Um,
And he's just like a character who you kind of root for.
like, I thought his fight with Deckard and that whole thing was way more interesting than the fight with Love at the end.
Yeah. Did you know that fight almost got cut from the movie?
The Deckard one,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. But
Actually,
wow.
in the like original versions of it, all of those holograms had like music and stuff going with them. And like the feel of the fight just felt kind of like cheesy and overdone.
Mm-hmm.
But then like at the last second their editor recut the fight and kind of like took out the sound effects, so it was like the holograms were just kind of malfunctioning, you know?
That was
And that
definitely a cool way to
Made it a lot
go.
better. Yeah.
I get why I did it, but I was kind of surprised. Like, they once again kind of gave Deckard a shitty thing where, like, Kay's like, I just want to ask questions. And then Deckard goes, what questions? And just shoots him, like, point blank, which I didn't understand how that didn't kill Kay. Because I thought.
I mean,
we
I don't know
talked-
if it like hits his head or his torso or like I don't think it hit his head, right?
No, it hit him in the chest. But
yeah.
I thought, because I remember we talked about the weapons in Blade Runner, like when we did the 1st
Mm-hmm.
one. I thought their guns were like, because they're designed to destroy replicants. Because don't they
Yeah.
explode or something?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess you can like maybe insert the headcanon that they were designed to kill the replicants at that time.
Okay.
And like maybe the new replicants are beefy, but it is like a bit of a stretch to say they're that much beefier.
Because he seemingly kills replicants in 1 or 2 bullets. When Kay is using it to kill replicants. So when he just got shot point blank in the chest, I was like, okay, he didn't kill him because there's still way more of the movie to go, but he has clearly incapacitated him, and that's what the relationship's going to be, is him nursing Kay back to health under threat of gun violence, and that's where he learns what's going on. But then Ryan Gosling just gets up and runs off, and then survives being blown up in a hallway,
Yeah.
and then he lets Harrison Ford punch him a few times.
Yeah. I mean, like, in all fairness, Kay is like a replicant who has been designed specifically to hunt other replicants,
Mhm.
which means that he has to be able to take a shitload of punishment, you know?
Yeah, like
Like-
that makes sense. It was just weird that I just think it's funny that Deckard doesn't give him a chance to explain and just shoots him. And
Yeah.
to me, I feel like he was shooting to kill him, and it just because
Hmm.
Kay decides to jump back at the last minute, that's the only reason he doesn't die.
Yeah.
And,
But I mean that like makes sense from Deckard's perspective too, because like
Mhm.
for him, like it has to seem so much more likely that Kay is here just to kill him or to pry information out of him in order to get to his daughter.
Yep. I
And
don't
like,
blame him. It just didn't feel like a protagonist action hero thing to do. Like it just went fuck you, bam, shot him, and then he gave his dog whiskey.
yeah.
That
I don't know,
also made me
like
chuckle.
it may not be a protagonist action hero thing to do, but it's like arguably a very Harrison Ford thing to do because he has that I haven't even seen Indiana Jones, but I know the famous scene where he's like fighting the sword guy, and the sword guy like does all his cool stuff, and then Harrison Ford just shoots him.
Yep.
So
And I'm sure you've heard that scene was completely improvised, right?
yeah, because Harrison Ford was feeling sick that day.
It's all good. But yeah, that's about really everything I can think. What else? Do you have any cool trivia for this movie?
Yeah, I think I have a couple cool bits.
Unless, did you have
Let me
anything
look
else?
through all of my notes and see if I want to make sure I don't have anything. Okay, let's get into my trivia stuff, or also just stuff from the special features that I hadn't mentioned yet.
Cool.
Um, through all of it. Okay, so one kind of interesting thing is that Jared Leto wasn't the original pick for who was going to play
Wallace.
Wallace. The original pick was actually David Bowie, but then he died shortly before the shooting started, so he couldn't be Wallace. But yeah, I don't know if that's
David Bowie would have done, because the other thing with Wallace is like it worked really well with Dave Bautista's character. Really did a really good job making him look old to the point I
yeah.
didn't realize he was wearing makeup that much. I was like, shit, is Dave Bautista that old looking? Because like I used to watch him when he wrestled, but I was like, that's like 20 years ago. But yeah, like Jared Leto just didn't look very old. And unless he was supposed to be like a young genius, I was picturing when they had Wallace at the beginning, like talking about what he did. I'm like, oh, that's an old man. So David Bowie being an older man, I think would have worked pretty well.
Yeah. I feel like maybe you can headcanon that there's some sort of super science that Wallace has got going on that's kept him looking young, but
That's true. And this is also, I want to let everyone know that this podcast is brought to you by the word headcanon.
is what?
Brought to you by the word headcanon.
Yeah.
It has just been said the most in any single podcast we've done so far.
I have used it a lot here. So another interesting thing, the opening scene with Sapper Morton
Mm-hmm.
was actually a scene that was written for the original. That was for the original Blade Runner that they just never filmed, and it went through some very minor rewrites for use in 2049. But yeah, it's one from the original.
That's cool. It was a good starting scene.
Oh, actually, so I have a fact here related to something that I do kind of want to talk about a little bit.
Okay.
Which is, how did you feel about the replacement of the Voight-Kampff test with the baseline test in this one?
I didn't feel anything necessarily about it because I couldn't remember what the Voight-Kampff test was, but I'm glad you brought it up because it fit my theory. Because I told Willoughby, I'm like, I think Robert's gonna bring up this weird test, how it keeps just being like whatever, but because I can't remember, like the Voight-Kampff test was just like it was actually like an interview, right? They would ask a question, you just give a straight answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because this felt more like it was just about getting like impulses off of someone, where they would say a question. Well, I couldn't really understand what it was doing.
So, like, the Voight-Kampff test is also, like, the answer that you give isn't actually the important part. it's the reaction that's happening in your eye while you're trying to formulate an answer to the question, which is supposed to stimulate some sort of empathic response.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the baseline test in this one, the lines that he says, like cells interlinked within cells, interlinked within cells, is text from a book called Pale Fire by Vladimir Nabokov, which is the book that Joy asks Kay to read her.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's
Which is funny
kind of
because they're like, you hate this book.
But yeah, so the baseline test, like the Voight-Kampff's purpose is to detect a replicant. The baseline test's purpose is to determine how far a replicant has deviated in their psychology from what they were programmed to be.
Mm.
So, like, yeah, the reason that Kay keeps having to take the baseline test and the reason that he starts failing it is because the things that he's experienced have caused him to deviate in massive ways from what his mental state is supposed to be like. But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a cool test.
Yeah, it fit. Like, it felt like a thing that would be in a weird dystopian sci-fi movie. Because it felt very aggressive. Like, not like the person on the side giving the test is on your side. It felt very much like you're being judged, and if you fuck this up, we're going to kill you.
Yeah.
But in that sense, it's being given to, like, what I thought also was a machine person who normally wouldn't be worried about it. But then, as Kay becomes more human, when he gets the test the second time, and he's clearly, like, messing it up, it was just like, oh, that was a really good way to do that.
Yeah.
But the other thing I didn't really get, but I guess we kind of figured it out when you were saying it's because he has human memories, is when when they're like, he lies and he's like, I killed the child or destroyed the child. You don't have anything to worry about. And then when Love goes up and was like, oh, you believed him because we can't lie. And I was like, so wait, can replicants lie or can they not lie? Because she can clearly lie, so I just didn't understand what was going on.
So, like, in theory, they're supposed to be so obedient that they cannot lie. And it's only replicants like Kay who have severely deviated from their program who can lie. Or potentially, like, and again, to use our word of the day again,
I wish I had a button I could hit and it would just kind of sweep across the screen like the star with the more you know.
Yeah. I think you could make the case that, like, because Love is a replicant who Wallace has very specifically designed to be his right-hand man, like, she probably has capabilities like that a normal replicant would not have.
Okay, that makes more sense. But yeah, I thought that was just kind of weird.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, what? Can they lie? Because we don't really get to see any other sort of working relationship of someone working with a replicant in that movie.
Yeah.
Were replicants called, not replicants, were Blade Runners called Skinners in the first one?
I don't think so. Yeah, I have no recollection of the first one.
Because
Skinners or skin jobs, they call them in this one.
Because just when he gets back to his house and it says "fuck off, Skinner."
Yeah.
Well, now I'm confused. I can't tell if they were being racist against replicants or if they were mad at him for being a replicant killer.
No, they're being racist against replicants. The other replicants also don't. That's something that they talked about a lot in the special features, is like part of the reason that he needs Joy so desperately is because, like, replicants are looked down upon by all humans who are racist against replicants. But Blade Runners are the lowest of the low, even amongst replicants, since they kill other replicants. So, like, there is no one other than Joy who he can turn to like, have a connection to another person.
Gotcha. That makes way more sense. Because I was kind of confused because that old lady who stops and talks to him calls him Tin Man Soldier. Are you gonna kill me? It made it sound like she was mad, unless she was a replicant. Maybe, I don't know.
She is, yeah, they are.
Okay, then yeah, because it made sense that it sounded like she was mad at him for being a Blade Runner. So, okay. That's fucked.
She is, yeah.
It's okay. But wait, why is she an old lady replicant?
I don't know.
I just thought about that. Like, because it doesn't seem like it would make sense for letting replicants get old.
I mean, like, Dave Bautista is also an old replicant, though.
I get,
Like
but he's
Sapphire
like
Morton.
he's like a big dude who can still work. That lady had a cane.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was just the one thing I was also confused about. Like, can they lie? But anyway, so yeah, to answer your question going all the way back, I think the baseline test was neat.
Yep. So another sort of funny. So this movie was originally going to be directed by Ridley Scott himself,
Mm-hmm.
but he made a very bad decision and left it to go and direct Alien Covenant.
Yep.
Yep, big mistake. But apparently, when they were kind of like starting up production, he would hang around the set a lot. But it made Villeneuve really nervous to have him eventually ask Scott how he would feel if his favorite Ingmar Bergman were hanging around the set all the time looking over his shoulder. And I guess Scott kind of laughed about it and then gracefully left. Did not interfere.
I would definitely feel that way.
Yeah, me too. I hate having people look over my shoulder while I'm working. But yeah, I think that's all the really interesting trivia I have.
All right. I mean, we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. Well, about a little
Yeah.
over an hour for this movie. So we've done a good little chunk of this movie talk.
Yeah.
So, all right, we can move on to part 2 or 3, depending on whether or not you count the Nerd Deep Dive as part 1.
I feel like they keep getting bigger. Maybe they are their own part. Oh man, I hope they're not getting too big.
Yeah, they're as big as they need to be. But,
I have fun making them, but sometimes I'm like, maybe I put too much detail in this.
hey man, this is just about having fun, a good time. No one's watching this. Will's not even watching it right now. He just has it pulled up and is probably drawing or getting ready for his job interview tomorrow. But we're going to head on to the video game part, and we're going to talk about our biggest little things in gaming, which is a dumb title that I came up with. But I will explain what I mean by it. And it's more like little details that when you saw them were clearly not something that the game developers were like, oh man, people are going to see this and lose their shit. It just feels like little extra things, but felt really important to me. And the first one that I can think of from the oldest memory I have of going, oh man, that's crazy, is from Ocarina of Time. And it's when you're fucking around in the start. What is the name of the starting village that you're in? I lost it in my brain. I knew what it was because it's not Kakariko Village because that's the the village at the base of the mountain. But anyway, you're in that town and you get the little shitty sword and you're flipping around and you see all these signs that give you tutorials. And then there's just one of them that says hit B to swing your sword. And I had played plenty of games before where if something wasn't important, it just normally didn't have a collision thing on it, so it would just swing right through it. So I just hit B to swing without thinking about it, and I just cut the sign. And it cut perfectly horizontally when I swung horizontally. So then I was like, what? And I ran over, targeted another sign, and did the leaping attack, and I cut it vertically. And I was like, oh! And then I also think I managed to hit it with the sideways chop, and it just cut however you hit it. And I was just like, that's bananas! I remember that happening. But now there's games like Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, where the whole thing is about cutting up a person into a million different directions. Have you played that game?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, when we get up there and we all have the ability to stream, we're going to get you playing that because that is a great platinum game.
Right.
For as much as you love platinum games.
I do like them a lot.
But did you have an example of
I had a hard time with this one. I have a couple. I don't, but I'm really hoping you have more than me on this one. Um, One that's just like a goofy little thing that I liked a lot was in um,
In what?
they're like in Astral Chain.
Ah,
Um, there were a lot of like various different little quests that you can do, but one that I don't know why I liked it so much, but I did, is that there were just cans all over and you could pick them up and put them in a trash can. They enjoyed just like picking up all of the cans and putting them in a trash can.
hey man, you got to do that.
Yep.
You're a police officer. It's your job. That's good. Do you have anything you wanted to say about it, or is that just it? That's fine if that's just it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to start going on my next one, and then you'd be like, well, actually, I wanted to talk about the theological importance of putting the can into the other can. It's a babushka doll of garbage.
Woo, I hadn't even thought about that. Blowing my mind over here.
Yep. Now you're going to have to fire your headcanon.
Yep.
But I am not afraid to shill for this company because I want them to give me all of their products for free, but I think that Rockstar probably does the best job of just like weird little shit that they spent probably way more time than they needed to make little details wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think their newest game, Red Dead Redemption 2, available now on PC. If I say this enough time, maybe they'll send me a free copy, and I will play it on this stream. Has so many weird little things in it that I would just rub my character against every other thing in the game to see if it was something special. Like, for instance, the one like that got a lot of news is there's real like simulated physics horse balls in that game.
Yeah.
Where you trot around, the balls bounce around, but then if you go up into where it's cold, the balls ascend because it's cold. And I was like, oh, that's weird. But I don't know if it's a new feature, because it was something I never really saw playing it on PS4, but they were making a big deal about it on like PC Gamer Magazine and some other places with this re-release on PC, is I guess now everyone's eyes dilate depending on what time of day it is. And I'm just like, why?
Yeah, that's some pretty crazy detail.
Why would you do this? But like another one for me that was from earlier in my gaming life was in GTA 4, was when they were really getting into using the Euphoria engine, where it's not about, I forget what it is, because a lot of people hate the Euphoria engine for how it works because it can make games feel really clunky and heavy, but I personally like it, where it's not about being able to just, you hit an input and then the game reads the input, is that the game has to read the input through the maze that is the physics engine, where if you try to move forward, normally like a character would just start walking against a wall, but with like a game like the Euphoria engine with its heavy physics, if there's not a place for the foot to go, the character won't fully animate and then like can fall over and stuff. There's a lot of things in Rockstar games nowadays that can cause people to fall over, and I love when things fall over. It's my favorite, whether it's video game characters or old people. I'm just on brand. We're bad people. That's the joke. But I remember, because I had never seen it in a game before where physics would do stuff that felt real, and having the option to do this is I would stand at the top of stairs in GTA 4, and just shove people downstairs. And it was nice because it was like almost never lethal, so I wasn't murdering anyone. It was like I was just pranking them really hard. And because you weren't using like a direct attack, like you weren't punching someone in the face, you were just doing the command that was normally used for like getting people to move out of your way in the street. The people didn't always get mad that you just shoved them down like a flight of 37 stairs. So I'd push them down, they'd get back up, and then they'd just walk up and I'd shove them down again. And that was great. That's why I never bullied anyone in real life, because I could bully ones and zeros.
Yeah.
But I remember specifically pushing the really morbidly obese character models as sort of like a form of digital flagellation.
Yeah.
is just making fat people tumble down the stairs. That felt good.
Yeah. Yeah, I could that would be a lot of fun. I don't think I ever did that in the GTA games. I did a lot of fucking around and just blowing shit up though.
Another. Do you have another one before I keep going?
Yeah, I mean I have a couple others. I
All
don't
right.
think
Well,
they're
I just.
great, but
Well, that's fine. This
what
isn't about greatness. It's just about talking. No pressure.
well, one that's like a really, really goofy one that I think I may have mentioned before is a thing from the Atelier games.
Okay. The
Where
crafting
like,
system.
huh?
The games with the
What?
crafting system.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've played 3 of the Atelier games, and in all of them, there's a thing where if you go up to a barrel and click on it, your character will just go barrel, barrel. And I don't know why. It has to be like a meme to an earlier game in the series, but I just find it funny that it's a detail that they put in every one of the games.
How do you spell atelier?
What?
How do you spell atelier?
Atelier.
Atelier. Often shout barrel. Okay. Why? I gotta know about barrels.
You're doing the research I should have done.
Hey, I gotta pull my weight. Running gag. Players often shout barrel whenever the player searches one. This dates back, way back. Yep, it's just because in one of their very first games they just did it as a weird joke, and then they've just kept it in all their other games. There we go. Mystery solved.
Yeah. It's that it's the like not even rule of threes. It's that have you ever heard of that Kristen Shaw routine? That's like a comedy routine that she does with some other guy
No.
where they'll just like you know who Kristen Shaw is though, right?
Not by the name, no. But I can look it up.
She does the voice for Mabel on Gravity Falls.
Oh, okay, yes. I know who that is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then she was also in Last Man on Earth. Life.
Yep, she's also in Bob's Burgers. That's what I know her from.
Yeah, as Louise. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah,
But
she's...
anyways, she and this other guy whose name I can't remember had this comedy show that they would do, and the bit was that they would go up on stage and just start going, Kristen Shaw is a horse. Kristen Shaw is a horse. Kristen Shaw is a Kristen Shaw is a Kristen Shaw is a horse. And they would just do that for like 20 minutes at a time. And so it was like this thing where like it would be kind of a little bit like that's kind of funny, but not really at first. And then like it keeps going and you're just like, why are they still doing this? But then it keeps going and you're like, okay, this is ridiculous. This has to stop. You've gone too far past rule of threes. But
I feel like that bit would annoy the shit out of me. Like, that's something... I'm not one of those people who are like, don't worry, it comes back around to being funny again. Like, I would just be like, nope. But, all right.
I guess I can see like being in a room full of people and all of you are just like, are you fucking kidding me? To the point where it just like becomes funny, but I don't know. That was a weird divergent tangent from the idea that barrel barrel was a joke that's not really that funny, but is kind of funny to me because they keep doing it.
Any content's good content. So, it works. I'm trying to think. Another one that I really liked was from... And they do it, I think, in every game in the series, but from Arkham Asylum, is that over the course of the whole game, your suit becomes more fucked up. Just from just from the game. So by the end, like your cape that you like will spread open to glide in will have small holes in it, and like the Batman symbol on the front of your chest has scrapes. And it just it does such a great job of showing the struggle and how tired Batman is. And I was like, that's really neat. And it's And it's something that happens so gradually that, like, the first time I played it, I didn't notice it until, like, it was in final form, super fucked up mode. And I was like, whoa. And my brain just thought, oh, maybe when I went through the door, the game just went, all right, costume change time. And it was just that. But then when I played it again, and I'm honestly probably going to play it a third time for the channel and just play all the Arkham games because I love them, I watched carefully as it was happening, and it's just slowly over time. And it's almost like you're a portable display case for, like, your trophies of war almost, because, like, you get a certain chest scar after you fight crocodiles. So instead of just getting a little trophy you put in a room, it's the scrape on your chest is the crocodile fight that you passed. Good job. And it was just really cool. Because I remember
it was pretty neat.
I think I remember them talking, and I could be super wrong, and I could just remember, like, internet lies, is that they were going to go super nuts for it in the final game, Arkham Knight, which now may not be the final one. It sounds like Rockstar is making another one. Not Rockstar, Rocksteady. Where all of the damage to your suit was real time. And you might, like, have to stop and, like, get a different cape and stuff because it's been fired full of holes. So by the end, like, basically, like, half the suit is torn off your body.
Yeah.
And that could have been really cool, but I'm like, man, that would have been a lot to do, and that game had a troubled enough launch on PC as it is, so.
Yeah. That would have been really funny if, like, you could just get to the point where Batman had to, like, go and get a barrel, like in the old cartoons.
So that way you'd have to say barrel.
Yep. Bringing it back.
That's what I was waiting. Joe goes like, it's a barrel reference. No, what would have been better is by the end, he's just wearing the cape and his cowl, and then he's just in his underwear.
Yeah.
Like the secret final costume in Spider-Man. Spoilers for Spider-Man for the PS4.
Man, that seems like such a shitty final costume. I don't know. I feel like I would want something super.
Well, what it is also the thing, as a other tangent, this doesn't really fit, is all of the costumes in Spider-Man have abilities. Mm-hmm. And the only way to get the final costume is to 100% a game on any file. And then when you get it, you can then use that suit, and the suit gives you the ability that no matter who it is, and then yourself included, everyone goes down in a single hit. So it's actually a really cool power, and then you can take that power off and put it onto any other suit if you want. But it is funny to see Spider-Man just wearing a Spider-Man mask and then wearing Spider-Man Stan Lee underwear as you're swinging around this city.
Yeah.
All right, what else? I thought I had at least one more, so I don't want to just keep trying to kiss Rockstar, even though I will kiss them right on the mouth.
Streets of Rogue had a couple little details that I thought were really fun.
Like what?
Just like stuff that they had thought up that you could do. The one that really stands out in my mind was like, whereas a hacker you could make a refrigerator run.
Oh yeah, that was good.
But yeah, I felt like they had lots of. I remember you playing the comedian, kind of funny things that happened, weren't there?
Mm-hmm.
Where you'd like go into a bar and they'd boo you, or.
Yep. That's a really good game.
Indeed.
Little weird details in games. Thought I had one more. Just see if I can Google it, see if there's just a list that I'm like, I remember that. Best details in games. I'm so convinced that YouTube is listening to me. I mean, Google is just listening, and I'm just like, stop it. Oh, one that reminded me, and I didn't even pull this up yet. I remember reading from an article, and it's not so much a detail, but it's a little thing I never knew about until I can't remember. It wasn't Kevin Levine who said it, I don't think. It was someone who was working on BioShock, and they were talking about how in BioShock, the first bullet an enemy or a group of enemy fires at you always misses. So, like, an enemy will pop around a corner and fire at you, and you miss, and it gives you that chance to run and take cover, and it makes it feel like you're in a firefight.
Yeah.
So it gives you the like feeling of like, oh, I just dodged a bullet. That's nuts. Oh god, I have to hide, and it makes you feel really good. And I was like, that, I don't know, that's one of those really cool things.
Yeah.
I think the Google thinks I meant best deals in video games. Because it's... oh, yeah. I haven't seen the list, but it just reminded me of code in video games. I know you've played all of the Sonic games because you love them.
All of them?
All of them. You love them all.
I have played the best one.
Sonic Colors.
No, Adventure 2 Battle.
Oh, nope. This channel has fully decided that that's a giant piece of shit.
False.
Oh.
Not this whole channel.
Whole channel. But at the end of Sonic Colors, Tails is putting in some like hexadecimal code or whatever to like get some stuff, and he like does the code first and goes, Sonic, this code says or no, it's binary. He's like, means this, and then he punches in some more code, kind of like off to the side as Sonic is talking to like whoever, but the code is still very visible on the console he's using, and in binary it spells out, if you can read this, you're a huge nerd.
That's pretty fun.
Man, I am actually... oh, fuck, the Metal Gear Solid series. That is a motherfucking game with too much motherfucking stuff. That, like, oh, man. Have you played Metal Gear Solid? Any of them? I keep forgetting.
Nope.
Okay, yep, for the 15th time, just checking. Metal Gear Solid 2 had weird shit. Like, when, first of all, basically, like, any small item on a pantry shelf was destructible. But if you like knocked a glass onto the floor and it had ice, it would just slowly melt over time. And that was crazy.
Yeah, because that's like a pretty old game too, isn't it?
Yep.
Wouldn't that be like PS2 era?
Yeah, it was like 2002.
That's kind of nuts level detail for a PS2 game.
I have to keep remembering you can't see my face. Because like I'm just like nodding along like, yeah, and I'm like, you don't know that I'm doing that. Oh, I'm trying some other stuff. Oh, Metal Gear Solid 3, which is my favorite game in the series, has a bunch of weird shit, and I'm glad Will isn't listening, because this is going to spoil a thing later. There's a boss fight that the entire boss fight is sort of like a morality check.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh no, Will, stop listening. It's every person in the game that you have killed comes like attacks you as a ghost, like every individual one. Like the game keeps tally because you're basically walking up a river, and I will do that, or I'll just type it's safe or something, I don't know. And you're walking up this river, and then ghosts of people that you've killed are walking towards you, and if they basically there's nothing you can do about it. You have to use like maneuverability stuff to get away from them as you move forward. And if they touch you, they just do damage. So the idea is, if you've played it completely passively, this is a nothing thing. You just get to walk up and hear like conversations. But if you've just been murdering the shit out of people, there's a billion dudes trying to touch you, and it's really hard. But there's two things about that boss fight that are nuts. The first part of it is that it's not actually a thing that's happening in the game. It's because your character is unconscious and is having like a weird near-death experience. So you can actually stop the boss fight immediately by opening your inventory, taking a fake death pill that makes you die, and then you just take a revival pill and you just wake up, and then the boss fight's done. Because it's not real. Actually, no, I think you just take the revival pill and it just lets you go. But no, the thing that is just like, that's so fucking weird is, in the game, a big mechanic of it is you have to eat to maintain your stamina. And there's dozens of different kinds of animals that you can eat. And you can either kill them and then they turn into a food item that like will eventually expire over time. Or you can trank them and put them into a cage, and then you can just eat them whenever and they'll never expire. But one of the animals is a carrion, a bird. It's like a type of vulture. I can't remember what it is. But if you kill anything in the area where the carrion birds are, they'll fly over and they'll start eating the bird or start eating the body, and then you can kill the bird and then eat that bird. And if you kill that person, let the bird eat it, and then eat the bird, when you're walking up the river during the death battle, one of the ghosts will be like, "Why did you eat me? Why did you eat me?" And it's just like, why? Why would that be a thing? They'd be like, well, what if we have to put that in the game? And then I was just like, that's fucked up. I ate a dude. It's safe. But yeah, that game just has a ton of like weird little details in it. It's an amazing game. If you have a PS2 or a PS3, I recommend getting it. And you don't have to play the other ones to like get it, because it's technically a prequel. I mean, it's not technically; it is a prequel. But, ugh. Okay. Do you have any more?
So I have one other one, which is a detail from the Pokemon games, which has become like kind of central to people who do like competitive Pokemon stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just like casually playing, it's a thing that you could play the whole game and never even know was a thing. Which is, did you know that there is a virus that your Pokemon can catch?
I feel for as many like weird top 10 lists I've read on video games, I think I've heard about this, but I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, so there is a virus that your Pokemon can get
Pokerus.
called Pokerus. Yeah. And what it does, the Pokemon all have some like kind of hidden stats that are beneath their stats.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those is EVs. And when your Pokemon has Pokerus, it increases the rate at which they can get EVs. And that Pokerus can be transmitted through like to different Pokemon in your party, and you can also like trade it to other people. I don't know. I think it's just like a weird detail that there is a virus.
Is it a
Pokemon.
positive then?
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Okay.
Pokerus. Your Pokemon lose it after a couple days, but
Gotcha.
there. Yeah.
Oh, that is really cool. Yeah, I didn't know about that specifically. Will, do you have any details you want to share, since you're the only one here aside from us? Here's some other ones. I like the goofy reload animations that are hidden in a lot of Battlefield games. The worst one is in the newest Battlefield game, which is a whole big thing where I think you can only do it on a specific map. But after you do a certain number of things, you get a special weapon that turns your hand into a gun, but it's just like you're doing like a pew pew with your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if the gun's actually powerful or not, but how you reload it is you dislocate and break your fingers and then pop them back into socket.
It's pretty intense.
And it is horrific to look at. Like other weird. Oh, another thing that was in an Uncharted game that when I was playing it, that I was nuts, is that all of the gravel has like physics on it. So I would see like me jump, and then I'd slide along the ground on my butt, and then I'd get up and start running, and there'd kind of be like the particle effect of like the spray of dirt and gravel. But I always figured that was like a baked-in model thing, like it was actually spraying off your pants. But no, you can go to any area where there's a rock and just shoot it with your gun, and little pieces will break off and just slide down. And then they'll pile up at the bottom, and that you can do a lot of that I don't think you can crash your game with it. I think after a certain point it starts disappearing. But you can just not build sandcastles, but you can just build piles of broken rock. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
For trying to develop games as many times as I have, where it's just like, how do I make this guy jump? Someone over at Naughty Dog was like, but what if I tried to make these rocks jump after you shot them with bullets? and then they formed a giant pile in real time. I'm just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Going back kind of to what I said about Batman, another thing I really like about Resident Evil 2 is that all of the bite marks that you get from zombies stay on your character model for like hours. But usually I just die and then I just reload and then I'm perfectly fine again. But if you're not horrible shit garbage, or if you're just playing it on normal difficulty, then you'll get to see them stay on your neck for a long time. Oh, man, I don't know if you saw when we raided into that one dude playing Resident Evil 2, speedrunning it.
Last night?
Yeah,
I watched a little bit of that.
Killed that boss just with the knife in like 10
That
seconds.
was pretty nuts.
I was like, damn it. Oh, my God. But yeah, I think that's all the ones I could really think of. It wasn't... we're at almost 2 hours anyway, so it's about where we stop. Couldn't really think of that many. It was just something I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it was a fun topic.
Yeah. So we'll give Will a little more time to think about his if he wants to. So for next week, did you want to do Inception Paprika?
We could. I guess I'd kind of hope to talk about Millennium Actress, which is a different Satoshi Kon movie, Paprika. But I mean, we could do that.
Well, did you have another movie? I just wasn't sure.
Well, I had a couple on my list, but one that I was actually thinking about pitching for this week is the Steve Martin comedy, The Jerk.
That movie is awesome.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since I was very young, and I'd really like to watch it again. So
Okay.
I was thinking about pitching that.
I'll watch The Jerk again. I'll make Will watch it
Awesome.
with me. That has one of my favorite opening lines to any movie of
Oh man, I'm excited.
Steve Martin saying, "Long ago I was born a poor black boy in Mississippi," or whatever. And it's just like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But okay, so what do we want to do as a compliment to that then?
So I've been like trying to keep a list of like ideas that I've had for game topics. So I have a couple here that I don't have my heart set on any of them, but I can throw them out there.
Hey, I'm here to catch him.
So one idea is, I call it impertinent game questions. And the idea is that you are asking questions where like the answer is clearly supposed to be like, because video game, but we're like asking them just to be pedantic assholes, and then like maybe trying to headcanon like how it makes sense.
Can you give me an example of what that is? I'm a little confused by what you mean.
So like one that I was thinking about is like, why in video games do people always spray paint help on the walls? Like, in real, what situation would you be in a building getting chased by zombies and you're like, you know what, I think I'm going to stop and spray paint help on the wall?
Okay, that was pretty good.
So that's one. One idea that I had was, I call it nerd confessional, where it's just like, it doesn't have to be video game specific, but it's like things from video games, like just your admissions of like, I cheated in this game, or I like this movie, or
okay,
whatnot.
I'm liking that one more. That one's good.
You want to do that one?
Oh, did you have any other ones? I also had a couple to pitch if you wanted to hear them.
So I had a couple others. The other one that I think is pretty decent is, I call it the licensed property game jam, where it would be like a game jam where you would take a licensed property but make a kind of new type of game in that world with that
Okay.
But I think I don't know, of mine, I feel like Nerd Confessional is a more fun one, and I have a real bomb to drop for that one. So
oh man, well now that's oh, okay, well now I want to do that one probably, but the two that I had were shit, I can't remember what the other one was. The first one was
If you tell me what they are, I'll put them on my list so that we have them for when we need more ideas.
Is if you had the ability to, while playing the game, like stop basically the game from being the game itself and talk to the characters as the player to be like, hey, guard from Skyrim, why do you keep trying to arrest me for hitting this chicken while I'm fighting dragons? Like, what sort of stuff like that would you want to try to, like, talk about? And then, man, your nerd confessional one's really good. And then, what was the other one? Oh, other one
I
was...
like that idea a lot, too, though. That's definitely one we should do at some point.
And then the other one was just best and worst tutorials you've ever seen in games.
Okay.
But I think I'd like to do the nerd confessional one.
All right, dope.
Awesome. So we're going to do the jerk, and then we're going to say
Oh, man.
how
I
we
feel
were
like you guys
jerks.
are never going to let me live down what I'm going to admit next week. Maybe I'm playing it up too much, but I feel like, based
Maybe.
on what you guys know about me,
Oh,
you're
man.
gonna. Oh man,
It's like
feel
you've never finished a Pokemon game.
it's not that one.
Okay.
It's. I feel like it's bigger than that.
Oh, no. All right, well... That's a good like to be continued JoJo moment.
Yeah, tune in next week.
For when Robert admits that he has actually been a replicant this whole time.
I would be proud of that,
But all right, so
but I'd also do cool replicant stuff.
oh man, like what? That'll be the thing before we close. What would be the coolest replicant thing you would do?
Oh man, I spoke too soon.
Oh no.
I don't know, like maybe find a job where I can punch through walls. I don't know.
All right, well, next time we're gonna watch Steve Martin's The Jerk. I'm gonna make sure my fingers are in the screen, and then we're gonna bring your biggest nerd confessionals, and we want to hear from everyone, especially you, one guy who watches our Twitch thing
Yep.
on YouTube. We want you to stop by. First of all, tell us who you are so we can say thank you, and then confess your nerd sins to us.
Indeed.
But yeah, tomorrow I will be finishing the first run on Resident Evil 2, hopefully, and then we only have 3 more to go. So that'll be in the evening, and then Saturday, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing a stream because I think we have some stuff going. So Friday might just be the end of the week stream. But anyway, thanks for everyone who stopped by, and thank you for Meistercat for the very generous donation. We're finally on the board again. But did you have anything to say before we sign off?
No, I don't think so. But we'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye.